Hey, what's up guys, Pattycakes here. I've been wanting to make a video about this subject for over a year now, but I wasn't sure exactly how to explain the concepts that were in my head. I've sat with it now for quite a while and I think I'm finally ready to tackle this subject. What I'm about to explain to you is what I believe to be the number one thing that separates average players from those at the top of the skill ladder. And the level at which you can do this thing dictates exactly how far you can make it as a player. So what is that thing? Playing with intention. Stay with me here because I know that sounds a little bit nebulous. What I mean is that top players have an algorithm in their brain that is far more specific and detail-oriented compared to an average player. What this looks like in game is extreme attention to detail when it comes to the fundamental mechanics of movement skill, aiming, and general game awareness. When watching top players, the main thing that always sticks out to me is just how many details they take into account, and you can see it in game with how they move around the map and which decisions that they make. They are constantly keeping tally of where enemy players could or couldn't be, and paying attention to details that could give them a slight advantage. Things like listening for sound cues and reacting to them, keeping tabs on what grenades or abilities they have available, how much time is left on the clock, paying attention to the radar at all times, and keeping a keen eye on the kill feed to know which teammates or opponents are taken out of the fight. There's two main components of this subject that I want to cover for this video, and while they certainly work in tandem, I think it's best to break them down individually before we combine them together. And those two components are crosshair placement and movement. Let's tackle crosshair placement first. In case you haven't seen them yet, I've already created a few videos that discuss aiming mechanics in depth, and I'll link them on screen here as well as in the description. For this video, I want to dive deeper into one specific component of aiming, which is maybe the most important part, and that is being incredibly precise with how you hold your crosshair before you get into a fight. See, most inexperienced players exhibit the cardinal sin of FPS gaming, which is having a lazy crosshair. That means they have their crosshair on the ground, way up in the air, or just generally somewhere that's not helpful. When you watch top players in any FPS game, they do the complete opposite. Their crosshair is always placed exactly where an opponent's head would be located if one was to come onto the screen. This is a concept known as pre-aiming, where instead of needing to perform some wild flick to correct their aim onto the target, all these top players have to do is click and they get a free kill, because their crosshair is already perfectly placed. This habit is what makes the game look so easy when you watch the best of the best. It's not just that the game is inherently easier for them, it's that they make it easier by being so intentional with their crosshair placement, and aiming becomes simpler for them because they need to make fewer corrections. Let's go deeper on this topic with a couple of examples. I think the best way to explain this concept is to quickly examine a game that moves at a slightly slower pace so that we can dig into the details a bit more. I promise these concepts will 100% guaranteed make you a far better Destiny player, or better at any FPS game that you choose to play for that matter. So here's NiKo, one of the absolute best pre-aiming CSGO professionals in the world. In this clip, he retakes a defensive position on the B-bomb site, and I want you to pay special attention to how he holds his crosshair exactly at head level for when enemies enter the room. With his exceptional aim and crosshair placement, he's able to take out the entire enemy team with just a deagle, and keep in mind, these are fellow professional players that he's challenging. NiKo's aim in this clip demonstrates incredible crosshair placement while playing defensively. That is, while waiting for a player to walk onto your screen. This skill is equally as important in Destiny or any other FPS game. I was actually having a conversation with a friend about shutting down supers in Destiny with a sniper rifle just a few days ago, and he was remarking about how rarely he seems to be able to snipe an enemy super in an average game. I believe the number one reason I'm able to do this pretty consistently isn't that I'm a better aimer, but rather my pre-aim is much more intentional than the average aimer. It really does make a world of a difference. In Destiny, we have a few more intricacies to deal with because the opponents have a lot of advanced movement options. When you're holding an angle, you need to not only worry about watching for someone to strafe into a lane, but they could also slide into that lane, so you need to be ready to adjust your aim down for that type of movement. Or, alternatively, they can also jump high into a lane, so you need to be ready to look up. This is actually something that you'll see top teams coordinate on purpose sometimes. They'll count down 3, 2, 1, peek, and have one player slide across the lane while another jumps into the lane in the air. Double peeking a lane like this gives you a temporary 2-on-1 situation and can often result in your team winning the gunfight. One other tip here to give you a leg up. When you see an enemy on the radar coming your way, you can often listen for the double jump sound cue, and you can know to look up in the air and anticipate where they might be. Okay, so let's look at another clip now, but this time we're looking at the offensive side of the coin. What I mean by that is that we're now talking about advancing our position on the map and needing to clear each angle where an opponent is likely to be. Here's fan favorite streamer and FPS legend Shroud playing some CSGO. In this clip, his team is attempting to take the A bomb site on Mirage. Watch as he meticulously uses his knowledge of where enemies could or couldn't be and flicks his crosshair around from spot to spot, scanning for enemies to appear in the various likely positions. As he clears these angles, he's ready to pull the trigger as soon as the enemy is detected in any of those positions where he's aiming. Shroud is able to perform this at an exceptionally high level, and you can see that he wins the round for his team. Pre-aiming while clearing angles offensively is just as important as when playing defensively. You may have already heard of the term peeker's advantage. That's where someone who peeks into a lane that you're holding has a slight advantage due to the way that netcode works, and they'll often land the kill on you before you even realize that they're on your screen. However, peeker's advantage only presents a benefit if you have exceptional pre-aiming skill so that you can predict exactly where your opponent is likely to be located, and you're already pre-aimed ready to take them out. In fact, to combat this pre-aim ability that some players have developed, you can often hold what's known as an off angle so that you're located in a spot that's slightly less conventional, and you can throw off your opponent a bit while they go for that pre-aim shot. At the highest level of play, especially in games with a developed pro scene like Counter-Strike, much of the gameplay actually becomes a battle of mental chess. When you watch Destiny tournaments with the best players in the world, the exact same elements tend to play out. So now that we've talked about being intentional with your aiming, let's dig into the second core component of playing at a high level, being intentional with your movement. I see it all the time when I watch less experienced players pick up a game like Destiny. They move around the map with very little regard to where an enemy could be located, and they accidentally expose themselves to many possible lanes, resulting in them getting killed. You may get away with this lackadaisical movement at a lower level, but as you climb the skill ladder, you'll start getting punished hard. When you're moving around the map, strafing into lanes and jumping onto surfaces, you need to always be considering what lanes of fire you're exposing yourself to. This is where map knowledge really comes into play. The better you're able to study and know every single common shooting lane on a map, the more aware you'll become. As another part of this map knowledge toolkit, you also need to have a plan of retreat in case you do start losing the fight. One of the concepts you'll hear good players talking about is being one shot away from cover. That means that if you take a big hit from, let's say, a hand cannon headshot or a sniper body shot, you're close enough to cover that you can easily dip out of the fight and regen your health and then either escape or take the fight again with full health. As the time to kill creeps faster and faster in Destiny 2, this concept is getting more important than ever. In addition to knowing the physical layout of the map, it's also important to start learning timings for various events on the map. For example, knowing how fast an enemy player is likely to get to a certain spot can mean the difference between you getting a pick or getting taken out. This gets a bit complicated because there's so many different movement abilities in the game, and good players can utilize these to get a big edge. These days you have top tree Dawnblade players blazing around the map with their Icarus dash, getting to some spots way faster than you would normally expect. Especially in scenarios like elimination with Trials of Osiris, knowing these timings can make or break the entire match. And in respawn modes like survival, knowing the timings and locations of respawn areas can earn you some easy kills and give your team a big advantage. I think the best way to improve in both of these areas of crosshair placement and movement is to record your own gameplay and watch it back later in slow motion. Keep an eye on your crosshair. Are you pre-aiming at head level where an opponent is likely to pop out on your screen? Or is your crosshair lazily placed on the ground? When you're moving around the map, are you unnecessarily exposing yourself to danger? Or are you doing a good job of having a lane of retreat? And when you die, pay special attention to the lane of fire that killed you. Was this avoidable with some better positioning? These are the habits that will make you a great player, but it does take some time to develop these instincts. I hope you found this video helpful. I know it's a bit more conceptual than many of my other videos, but I truly believe these are the topics that will greatly improve your abilities as a player, and I hope that you find them valuable. If you did enjoy watching, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss my next one. Also, let me know in the comments if you'd like me to make a part 2 or part 3 on this topic, because I think I might be able to turn this into a series and talk quite a bit more about these different subjects. I'm planning to do a lot of help for Trials of Osiris this season, so if you're a PC player, make sure to stop by when I'm streaming and I'd love to help you out. You can catch me over at twitch.tv/pattycakespc. We also have a great community Discord, and it may be a great way for you to find a Trials of Osiris fire team. There's players of all platforms in there, so feel free to join up. There's a link in the description to check it out. And finally, I've been getting much more active on Twitter lately, and I'd love to chat with you over there about Destiny or any other questions you might have for me. My Twitter handle is pattycakesgg, and I'd love to chat with you on that platform, so make sure to give me a follow if you have an account. That's all for now. Catch you guys next time.